Joining us now, the director of the White House Office of Management and Budget, Russ Vought. He is with us. And, boy, he's got a big announcement to make today. And we're really excited about it. You've ever been in government or one of these private partnerships and you tried to build a road anywhere in America, you have no idea what you have to go through with all the regulations. It can take 6, 7, 8, 10 years to get approval. Hey, look, remember when they tried to build 460 and widen that? What you went through here in, where was that, Central Virginia, going to Richmond from the beach? Remember that? I mean, it went on for years. We wasted millions of dollars on it. Got to be able to get things done. And the president signing an executive order is really hot. And without further ado, I'm going to bring the director of the White House Office of Management and Budget on. Mr. Director, great to have you with us, sir.
Thanks, John, for having me. I appreciate it.
Look, I want you just in layman's terms, explain to our listeners today what has been done and what a difference it is going to make in reinvigorating America's infrastructure.
Sure. And I think you've really laid it out really clearly already in the sense that this president doesn't believe you need to wait 10, 20, 30 years to be able to get environmental approval for a road, a bridge, a pipeline, some infrastructure that's important to protect the environment itself. This is the National Environment Policy Act, which was passed in the 1970s, is a procedural act that requires decision makers to have information about the environmental impacts of their decisions. It shouldn't take, on average, 4.5 years for highway projects, 7 years, and in the worst examples, much longer. This main reform that is required under this initiative that the president rolled out yesterday is to just require it to be done within 2 years. All the information needs to be made. One federal agency will need to make it. So this is not a situation where 6, 7 different agencies all are involved and you're getting passed back between each other. People need certainty in their life. Communities need certainty in their life. We need to get rid of congestion. We need to get pipelines built, and that's what the president is trying to do with this proposed rule that we're going to go out for comment with in the next 2 months.
We're with Russ Vought. He's the director of the Office of Management and Budget for the President of the United States, Director OMB. And what he's referring to is the acronym. I know I hate acronyms, but you got to deal with it. NEPA, N-E-P-A. It's the National Environment Policy Act. So what the president says is, look, we got a 2-year limit, right? 2 years. You want to build a road. You want to build a tunnel. You want to build a bridge. You want to fix a bridge, right? You want to build a bigger bridge so you don't have to wait and have the gates open and all that stuff. You want to fix America's crumbling infrastructure. You want to build a tunnel for Amtrak, whatever it may be. You got a 2-year limit to get all the studies done. What happens if they miss the deadline?
Well, I think the key aspect of this is that it's giving a deadline, but it's also changing the culture within this agency. So the very reality of having one lead decision maker, the nature of enforcing time limits on the environmental impact assessments themselves, the average right now is 600 pages. We're setting a presumptive limit of 150 pages. We don't want to basically provide, page after page of statements that's used down the road by the trial attorneys to stop these projects because they never want them to go forward. So we're at the same time that we're putting a limit, we're changing the culture that allows them to have the bureaucracy get the job done. And I also think the other point I would make is that for the first time, we're trying to make these agencies. Many people may come to work for the EPA, and they may be there to protect the environment. We want them to do that and be concerned about clean water and clean air, but we also want them to feel that they have a responsibility on behalf of the American people to get projects done. So stuff can't just be sitting on their desk waiting for action. We need them to be coming saying, let's get this project approved or rejected, but a decision needs to be made.
All right, the thing that I love what you just said, Mr. Director, and easier said than done when you work most of the week and live in Washington during the week like I do, and you understand the swamp. You said change the culture, right? change the culture within the various agencies handling this, that we have to get this done. So we're going to now collapse everything. You got to get it to 150 pages. It's got to be done in 2 years. There's a sense of urgency. But, that sounds great. It's like, okay, we're going to change the culture. But, Mr. Director, having been there, I mean, it's very difficult to change the culture of any agency in the government because it's entrenched civil servants. They have a way of doing things. There's a lot of resistance internally to what Trump tries to do. So run us through your plan, honestly, to change the culture. And I'm not saying this tongue-in-cheek, but just having been there, you know how hard that is.
Oh, I do. And, OMB, one of their big responsibilities is the government-wide execution of the president's priorities. And so, we see that every day. I think I'll just go back to another change in this rule that will change the culture. One of the main ways that the bureaucracy slows things down is by passing you back and forth between different agencies. So you make one agency head approve something, then it goes over to another agency, and that sits for 6 months to a year. One federal decision, which is a principle that's embodied in a prior executive order from the president and this rule on NEPA reform, one federal decision says there's going to be a lead agency, and that lead agency is going to make the decision and really be the instigator for getting a project done. And so we're going to eliminate the ability for other agencies not to have consultation and be a part of the process, but to be able to sit on and ensure that 2-year limit is somehow not achieved.
You're going to eliminate the nonsense, the stalling that goes on. How much of it is done just because it's the inertia within the agency and there's no, fire lit under anybody? And how much of it, Director, is because people are purposely stalling this? And I know that's a tough answer for you to give as a director there, but can you touch on that?
I think there's a lot of the former, in terms of, people have a normal work week, and in terms of, the urgency to say, can I get this thing done today? Can I get this thing done this week, this month? You always have issues to work through, conflict to resolve, but there's so much discretion in how you order your calendar within these jobs to be able to execute and get something done. So we see both, but often not, you're trying to get the president's priorities done. A lot of times is the just getting people to make it a priority, and I think this is what this initiative does.
Does the president have the next thing is, and I hate to ask these questions only because we've been here for 3 years. Is the president going to get like 32 legal challenges now over this executive order?
I think, everything he does gets legal challenges.
A legal challenge.
Right? So, right. But we're very confident that we've been writing these rules to be sustained in the court system. It's a different subject, but yesterday or the other day we got approval again on the wall being built. And so these things are being done with court challenges expected. We hope they don't come, and we'll dispense with them as fast as we possibly can. But this is totally within the law. This is not an attempt to change the environmental standards. We still want to make sure that all the laws that Congress has passed in this area are abided by, but Congress never said it needed to happen. You needed 30 years to build a bridge. The Golden Gate Bridge was done in 4 years. The Empire State Building was done in 1 year. I think we can get back to that sort of America and make it great again.
Oh, man, I love that analogy, the Golden Gate Bridge. Could you imagine trying to do that now in a 4-year period? I mean, we'd all be dead 3 times over before the thing ever got built.
Yeah, it's hard to imagine. It
really is hard to imagine. You're on the John Fredericks Radio Network, Trucking the Truth across America. I'm your Godzilla of the Truth. We're with OMB Director, that's the Director of the White House Office of Management and Budget, Russ Vought, the Director with us. So I appreciate your honesty with a number of lawsuits coming down. We're excited that finally the wall, that money is released, the wall is going to continue to go up. The question becomes the within the agency in getting this done, and you know you're going to get the various legal challenges you always do. Is it through your own initiative, your own drive, that you're going to be able to follow this up and see it into fruition so it actually becomes a reality?
That's
Russ?
really what the main function that our office does, is to make sure that it's ready to go. It can sustain the court challenge. All of the T's are crossed and the I's are dotted. That's really our main function. So so we play that air traffic control function to make sure we're going to go through the next stage of it's a proposed rule, but we're going to get it finalized by the end of the year.
So give me a percentage of political appointees from the Trump administration that would be involved in this endeavor, positions open. Is it 35%, 50%? Because one of our concerns has been we've not filled a lot of the political appointee positions. Therefore, there's not people there driving the president's agenda. And, it's hard. So many people, Russ, from the outside, Mr. Director, don't understand that new administration comes in. They've got 4,000 political appointee positions. And these positions are important because you're supposed to appoint people that believe in your agenda, and then they come in and they work within the agencies to drive it forward. So my question is, give me a percentage of how many of these political appointee positions that would affect you are still open. 50%, 10%, how many?
I don't have a good percentage, John. I know that it continues to be a problem. We're trying to get our appointee seat through the Senate. For those that don't require confirmation, I think we're making a little bit more headway than we were. I know that Department of Transportation, one of the agencies that is directly involved in this, is doing pretty good in terms of their vacancies. I know the same for Environmental Protection Act and the Department of Interior. I think there are still challenges, and I think you're right to continue to talk about it, because we absolutely need political appointees who are trying. They wake up every single day, and I tell this, John, to the people that work at Office of Management and Budget. I say we wake up every single day trying to accomplish what the president promised the American people, and to get through conflict and to try to remove barriers to that. And if you don't have an agency with enough folks who wake up with that passion and that objective, we're not going to be able to be successful. But I think we're moving in the right direction on that, but we need to keep working at it.
I got to tell you, Mr. Director, we've never met, but I love your enthusiasm and your drive here in trying to get this done. And if there's anybody that's going to pull this off, I think you're going to be able to. You're the guy that's going to be able to do this. Don't want to get ahead of myself. We're going to get job numbers out at 9:30. You probably know what they are. They're embargo. That's the way the system works. Talk to us a little bit about the jobs being created, and if your sense is the economy is still on a path to keep rolling along without sharing what we're going to have in 2 hours.
Yeah, I just think that this president continues to be at the forefront of an economic growth movement that is having the lowest unemployment we've seen in 50 years, and I don't think we're going to see anything different on that front. It is something that we're very excited about. The president's very excited about. The best thing that can happen to a family is to have people working and have enough income, have the dignity of work, not having people on the sidelines of the economy, trying to get in and be able to have the same freedom and economic opportunities that their friends, relatives, neighbors are able to enjoy. And so we see that in every single demographic group, these record lows. And I don't think we're going to see anything that's different on that front. We got to keep the economy growing. It's important, and I think the president's economic agenda has been really paramount in fostering that freedom and economic boom.
I tell you what, I'm going to tell you people, Edie and Rachel, you're a great ambassador for the president. I know this is the first time we've talked, but you really need to do media more. You really need to get out there, because when you think of the director of OMB, right, go back to the Bush administration, you think of the guy in the green eye shades, and it was always dire stuff about you were going to cut somebody's entitlement. I think you're bringing a message of growth and hope, and kind of re-stimulating it. And a lot of us, get despondent because we just can't get anything done, and the president gets so much internal resistance. I think you're a definite voice of enthusiasm and kind of a shot of fresh air that would start to envision. President's learned a lot. One thing I hope he's learned: personnel is policy. You put John Bolton in as NSA. You don't have to comment on it. This is just my narrative. You put John Bolton in as NSA director. Well, you're going to get policy that is not exactly the America First foreign policy agenda. He's trying to drop bombs on people. That's what he's been doing for 5 decades. You got to get the right people in there. You obviously have been a fabulous choice, and hopefully when we get a second term, personnel's policy, we're going to be able to do that. I really appreciate your time today, and I love this initiative because I get excited when I see barrels and I see sledgehammers and I see cranes because I love roads, bridges. Mr. Director, we have a crumbling infrastructure, and it's about time that we put the effort on it, right?
It is, and I appreciate the kind words. We view ourselves as the president's Swiss Army knife, and we're excited to do it, and we want to keep his initiatives going and help him deliver for the American people. So thanks for letting me be on the show, John.
The president's Swiss Army knife. I love that, Russ. Thank you. Thanks for being with us. I really appreciate it.